Software to monitor, manage, and optimize physical assets exists for decades. For example, fiber optics or telco operators have been using software to monitor their communication equipment for a long time. Same for many types of fleet of vehicles. So while the SaaS for physical assets model is not new, what is noticeable is that software is eating an increasing number of physical assets. For instance, I saw SaaS products that monitor physical assets such as forests or grapevines, thanks to drones and camera mounted on tractors. Like many people, I thought initially that this explosion was mainly due to the rise of the Internet of Things. But the IoT is only a part of the explanation. This explosion of physical assets monitored is also due to the explosion of data coming from widely available external sources, such as smartphones and drones, as well as the sophistication of AI that enables the extraction of new data from existing sources. Just to give you an example, surveillance cameras have existed for decades now. But it's only recently, thanks to AI, that we can extract plenty of new types of data from them. Now, thanks to AI-powered software, a retailer can count the number of customers he had during the day, or how long its customers spent on average on its parking lots. And they do that just by extracting this data from the recordings of their surveillance cameras. Speaking of data sources, one of my assumptions at the beginning of my research was that offering proprietary data was a killer value proposition. If, as a SaaS for physical assets, you could provide your users with a proprietary data source, it would automatically make you super appealing. But to my surprise, the companies that seemed the most successful were not the ones offering proprietary data sources, but rather the ones that managed to aggregate data for their users. In many verticals, data fragmentation is a real problem. So if you find a way to aggregate existing data and provide users with actionable insights, then you do have a killer value proposition. Very often, data aggregators enable vertical market users to make data-driven decisions that they couldn't do before. This is why this playbook is so powerful at the moment. Now, to the point of why proprietary data doesn't seem to win all the time, I think that it first depends on the availability of data sources for each asset. In the case of physical things, for which you have very few sources available, then providing proprietary data can be key. For example, I believe it's the case for the startup that provides a SaaS for winemakers that monitor their crops. Since there are few data sources available, they do need to provide this proprietary data source through the form of cameras mounted on tractors. On the other hand, as I explained in my previous point, for many types of physical assets, we arrive at a point where there are plenty of sources available. And my theory here is that once you have a critical mass of fragmented data lying around for a specific asset, aggregating becomes more powerful than providing a new source. And why? Because the value brought by an additional source becomes marginal. So aggregation is more powerful at that stage. As a follow-up to my previous point, being a data provider or aggregator is not enough to be successful. It's only one part of the equation. The other part is to provide actionable insights to your users. Most of the successful vertical data providers and aggregators I saw not only provide the data part, but more importantly, they draw insights that enable users to make data-driven decisions. The explanation for me is that most vertical market customers are not data scientists craving for new data sources to crunch. They actually don't care about the data itself, but rather about the actionable insights that the SaaS will offer them. This is why it's very important for SaaS for physical assets to provide real value propositions through their software and not only raw data. In terms of the value propositions that I saw while analyzing these more than 40 SaaS for physical assets, what stands out is that you have a wide variety of them. And it really depends on the type of asset which is monitored. For some verticals, what is key is to monitor the availability of physical assets because operators have very strict SLAs to comply with. For others, what is important is to decrease their maintenance cost, or to increase the usage rate, or to have a real-time overview of the states of their assets because they have compliance or ESG constraints, etc., etc. The only common denominator that I see from this very diverse set of value propositions is that they are, in a way or another, impacting the operation cost or the revenue generated by the operators of these assets. The most successful SaaS seems to be the one that can prove that they can decrease the cost of operating these physical assets or to increase the revenue you can generate from them. My last takeaway for this video is that I think that for many types of physical assets, we are only at the beginning of the equipment phase. Many physical assets owners and operators are not equipped with software to monitor, manage, and optimize their inventory. So the first wave is really about software adoption. Then I believe that we will have a second stage where first the software in place will expand their scope, and second, we will see ecosystems of third-party applications built on top of them. Just to illustrate what I mean, we can look at AquaConnect, an aquaculture platform. The core value of the platform is to enable aqua farmers to monitor the health of their ponds and to optimize their production. But on top of this core, they build many additional features that cover other needs of aqua farmers, such as a marketplace with suppliers of healthcare products and farm equipment, or a fintech platform that bridges the gap between the farmers and financial institutions to get better access to credit and insurance, for example. My point here is that I think that we will see this kind of product expansion in many other verticals. Many SaaS will start with monitoring and optimizing assets to later extend their scope and provide additional values to these asset operators.